The bad news is time flies. The good news, you're the pilot.
You are now listening to the highlight reel builder for authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, best-selling author, and Maxwell Leadership Certified Trainer, DomBrightmon. And you're going to be getting some tips and techniques to advance yourself coming up next. It's the host, DomBrightmon, coming at you before the official episode begins. You may notice a little different in the sound quality today because yours truly was on the road recording this episode, in particular with Blaine. So if something seems a little different, my apologies. If you enjoy it, let me know too, because Blaine dropped some great gems. You're going to get to hear them up next. Thanks a bunch for sharing some of your time to listen to this podcast and supporting this show. Appreciate you a bunch because your time is valuable, and I want to give y'all the best from folks you probably don't hear from a lot or at all. So let's get on with today's content, my friends, and go north to your greatness. And today on the highlight reel builder for authors known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, the Going North podcast, we got one heck of a super special, awesome human for you today, courtesy of podmatch.com. That's right, folks. The website that's probably responsible for this guest being booked for the freaking millennium, because we got another wonderful guest today, folks. That's right, indeed. Another TEDx speaker has found its way to the podcasting place. And not only that, my man is also a habit master, as well as America's only chief results officer. So the CRO, baby. That's right, indeed. So all the crow you can say grace over, my friends. So let's give it up for the bombastic and outstanding, the one and only Blaine Oelkers. How you doing today, Blaine?
Hey, Dom, thank you so much for having me on. Pleasure to be here. Love the introduction there and love like the radio voice that you have. So I've been enjoying your podcast. Highly recommend people hit the subscribe button and join in. But yeah, I'm happy to be here and glad to serve the listeners in any way possible today.
Woohoo! That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Because the man's all about that servant leadership among many other things, indeed. That's right, indeed. Because I hear my man's been looking for some of the good old ancient wisdom and polishing it up and sharing it with others to remind them, hey, the old stuff is still the good stuff while we have some new stuff that's just as great too.
Yes, agreed. You know, service to many leads to greatness. And I find some of that ancient wisdom very applicable today. So happy to share some of it.
Sweet. So my goodness, as with all introductions, they're not allowed to be 71 days long. I probably only covered maybe 7 minutes of the total 71. So my goodness, my filling in any cavities I may have missed about your Blaine, about your journey, if I got to where you are today.
I had a couple of moments in my life, moments of kind of dawning comprehension that led me to become America's Crow, America's Chief Results Officer. And I went to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and I did get the registered trademark. So the R with the little circle carries a little more weight than just the TM. But I had a couple of moments of dawning comprehension, and the first one came for me when I was in college. So I was in college, and maybe like some of the listeners, I've always been a seeker, like trying to, how can I learn more? How can I do better? How can I be better? And I saw this little ad, and it was where you could send away for an audio cassette. Now, I'm dating myself. Some people don't even know what an audio cassette tape is. But anyway, it's an audio program, came in a little plastic case. This is back in the 80s, dating myself. But I sent away for this, and it was for the reading of a book called Think and Grow Rich. And it was read by Earl Nightingale. So Earl Nightingale, pretty cool guy. He became one of my mentors. But I listened to that, and I bought the book. And what happened for me, this book, Think and Grow Rich, I realized, and later I made a phrase called white tape, but what you think about, you bring about. And I realized the power of my own thoughts. Now, I can't control circumstance. That's like the outside world. But my reaction to the circumstance and the thoughts that I carry around with me all day long kind of determine what I focus on. Like what I see is kind of based on what I'm looking for. And so that had a profound effect. I met my wife in college after that, and we've been married 31 years now, so doing pretty good there. And then the second moment that set me on this path of dawning comprehension. My degree is in computer science. I had a nice job, and I got back from this long business trip. And so when I got back, my son Bo, he was about a year old at the time, he was like giving me the cold shoulder. And I said, Beth, is Bo, is he sick or something? She goes, no, he's not sick, but you were gone so long on that business trip, he kind of forgot who you were. And I was like, wait, what? That hit me like emotionally pretty hard. And so that night I made what I call a clarifying decision that no matter what, I was going to be a work from home dad. And so, making that decision cut away all the types of jobs. Now, this is back a while before it was cool to work remote, before it was cool, to have a side hustle, but I started two companies, and it took me a year. So it took me a good amount of time. But a year later, I left that job, and that was 27 years ago. So now for the last 27 years, now the kids are grown and gone out of the nest. But what that did is that gave me the time to figure out, like, why is Blaine here? Like, what are my real gifts? What am I really on the planet for? And I realized it was to help people take control of their lives by taking control of themselves, something I call self-fluence. So I started that company, and that's what led me down the path to kind of become a chief results officer. One of the mastermind groups I was working with said, hey, you're our chief results officer. I go, I like that title. And that's when I kind of looked it up and grabbed it, and so anyway, maybe that's a longer story than you wanted, but now you kind of know the rest of the story.
Oh, heck yeah, indeed. It's right indeed. It's right indeed. And a great story indeed, and definitely powerful too, because yeah, that book Think and Grow Rich, like that's some would even call it the entrepreneurial Bible, because it's like, hey, what you think about, you definitely bring about indeed, and your mind is so powerful. Like it's amazing what we can do when we actually tap into our minds, what we can do. And funny enough, like with you being the chief results officer and just coming up with that wonderful idea and just using it and taking it across the wonderful globe from the comfort of your own home, a man is freaking doing it indeed. So what keeps you motivated?
Yeah, there's a number of things that keep me motivated. At first it was being home, like being able to be part of the family, being around, right? So family was a big thing. And then you also look at, like, financially, you want to be able to, live nicely, live comfortably, live nicely. So finances was another thing to keep me motivated. But when I peel back all of the layers, when I get to the peel back all the onion skin there, in the very center, what I realized, what motivated me the most was freedom, was basically being able to do kind of like what I want, when I want, with who I want, and not to be kind of beholden to a job or a boss or really any kind of outside forces. And that was the thing that, during leaner years or whatever, that motivated me to kind of keep working harder so that I could stay working at home, and I didn't have to kind of go back to programming computers for a living. Now, I did have to do that one time. I actually, I was a Domino's pizza franchisee, and I bought a store and I was running it, and it was going pretty good. But then one night I got held up at gunpoint, and my wife was like, look, this is just not the right, this is not for us. So I sold the store to my manager, and then I did go back to my old a person I used to work for, and had to kind of go back into computers before I kind of fully broke free. But in any case, I think in the end, I really have a driving motivation to kind of keep that freedom, and is the core one. But family and finances are probably close seconds and thirds.
Hey, there you go. Some good F's right there indeed. That's right indeed. And heck, and with that powerful story being able to transform that pain of being robbed at gunpoint, like, oh crap, this might be over, to where it's like, okay, I guess I gotta go back now, and just really having that dedication and that willpower, man. So did this help you to develop basically your method of helping folks to really stick to habits in what was it, 21 seconds as opposed to 21 days, over, if I heard you correctly on the past interview?
Yeah. So working from home last couple of decades, that gave me the freedom to start working on frameworks. And I started a company called Self-Fluence. So Self-Fluence is like the art and science of influencing yourself. I also like to say it's the power you already have to influence yourself. So you don't need anything, you don't need any fancy apps, you don't need any extra stuff. Everything you need is within reach. You're already doing it. And if you decide, up to you, you can master it. And so, yeah, I did start to create frameworks around the things that people, mostly business owners is my main kind of target client or whatever, mostly business owners, what they struggle with. And we are creatures of habit. And so in kind of actually through my wife, I discovered, what I ended up calling 21-second habits. So how to create a new habit in 21 seconds, not 21 days. And so, yeah, I mean, let me share a little bit about that framework. But the first thing to understand is that you are already a habit master. So for example, Dom, let me ask you a question. In the last 24 hours, have you brushed your teeth in the last 24 hours?
No, of course.
Okay. So how long have you had that habit of brushing your teeth?
Probably process I was a freaking kid. At least like what, 5, I guess, whenever the teeth finally came in and became stable.
Right. Okay. So we're not going to ask you how old you are, but it's decades. So you've had this habit for decades. And I want people to understand that you're already a habit master, right? You already mastered that habit. And so the way I discovered the 21-second habits was my wife, actually, luckily this is past tense, but she used to have nearly daily migraine headaches. And so the doctor said, look, Beth, you got to fill out this headache log. And it's kind of detailed, like what did you eat? What could the triggers be? What's the weather like? What's the barometric pressure? I mean, all these things. And she filled out the log for a day or two. Then she'd lose it. Then she'd forget to do it. Then she'd have a migraine and I'd ask her about it. Oh, it was really, really bad. And then one night I'm watching her brush her teeth. And I realized that she's like the perfect dentist person, and she brushes her teeth 2 minutes. That's the dentist recommended 2 minutes at night and 2 minutes in the morning. So that's 4 minutes. And so there's 3 keys, but the first key to the 21-second habits is what I call habit linking. And so I said, look, honey, why don't you do this? Put the headache log underneath the toothbrush and the toothpaste. And then when you brush your teeth, which you don't have to remember to do, you already know how to do it, no willpower required. As you brush your teeth, fill out the log. And so she put it there. She never lost the log then because she always knew where it was in the bathroom underneath the toothbrush. But she started filling that out every morning and at night. And she went 90 days in a row filling that out. And the smile on her face when she went back to the doctor and she had the whole thing filled out was priceless. So that's the first key is habit linking to a habit you're already a master at. And that is already happening for you, let's say on a daily basis. So I said, let me try this out. I want to prove this for myself. So I had 2 habits that I want to start. One is I wanted to read the Bible. And so I had a Bible app. And the second one was I had realized that physically I would take a shower every day, but I wasn't washing my mind every day. So I want to take what I call a mind shower. And so I wanted to do those 2 things. And I thought, you know what? If I'm going to be successful, I better do it first thing in the morning. And so then I said to myself, well, what is the first thing that Blaine does every morning without fail, no willpower required? And yes, you guessed it. It's the smartphone. I open up my smartphone every morning. It's the first thing I do without fail. So what I did is I opened up my phone and I moved all the apps off the home page. And I just put 2 apps there, this Bible app and an app called Headspace, which I could use to take the mind shower. And so then what I did is every day when I woke up, the first time I opened my phone, I had to do those 2 apps before I was allowed to touch anything else on my phone. And this is where the second key came in place. So the first one is habit linking. The second one is called urge surfing. And so urge surfing is there's got to be some urge that you have that you surf that gives you the energy to go do those new habits. Now, why was I opening my phone in the morning? Well, my son lives in Denmark, so I might have text messages from him. I've got emails, I've got orders to process. I want to know what happened in the world. I want to check social media. I mean, there's all this stuff I want to do. I have this high desire to do that stuff. And I use that desire to push me through to do that new habit, So, and in my wife's case, she could not go to bed with gritty teeth, right? So she had an urge to clean those teeth. And that's what she linked into the journal or filling out the headache log. All right. So number one is habit linking. Number two is urge surfing. And then the third one is leverage. And so there are ways to like psychologically get leverage on yourself to ensure that you keep that habit. A couple of examples. One is psychologically, if you do something for 3 or 4 days in a row, you don't want to break the streak, right? And it becomes more and more powerful, right? So with my phone, those two things, the Bible app and the mind shower, today I checked before I got on the podcast with you. Today was day 1,807 days in a row that I haven't missed that habit that I started basically instantly 1,807 days ago, right? So that really made the difference for me. Now I'm well, now it's kind of hardwired. I mean, neurologically it does take 21 days for the neuron pathways to begin to form, and it takes 63 days for them to really kind of solidify. But anyway, so once you start the streak, that works. The other way to get leverage is rewards and penalties, pain and pleasure. So if you say, hey, if I do this new habit 7 days in a row, 14 days in a row, I'm going to give myself a little reward. Maybe it's buy a book that you wanted to buy or something like that. And then the opposite is true. Have a little penalty if you don't do it for a week or 14 days. And typically, friends and spouses are happy to help with the penalties because they kind of like to see you squirm a little bit. My wife will say, hey, if you don't do this new habit, you're going to have to wash out the garbage cans, the big garbage cans outside, which she knows I do not like to do. If she really wants me to do the habit, she'll say, Blaine, you have to wash the garbage cans, the neighbor's garbage cans, on the side where if you touch their garbage can, they're coming after you. So anyway, you can have some fun with it. But again, 21-second habits come from habit linking, and there's lots of things you can link to, urge surfing, and then getting leverage on yourself through either streaks, don't break the chain, or also, rewards and penalties. Does that make sense, Dom?
Hey, it makes perfect sense indeed. And I love those 3 easy steps. Like it's like a triangle of power. It's like no wonder he's the chief results officer, baby. That's right indeed. The CRO extraordinaire. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Because hey, that habit linking too, it makes perfect sense. Because hey, we're always looking for the easiest way out. And it's like, well, link it to what you're already doing.
Right. I just had someone the other day that I'm a big fan of next day planning, right? Never let a day end without planning the next one. And my friend Ann wasn't doing it. And I said, Ann, what do you do first thing in the morning? And she says, well, I make a cup of coffee. And I said, do you have that real fancy machine that grinds the beans that smells really good? She goes, yeah, I do. I said, great. Take a pad of paper and a pen, put it by the coffee maker on top of the coffee maker, go over, make your coffee, smell your coffee, but you can't taste your coffee until you start that plan. Right. So now she's got the habit linking with the urge surfing. Right. And then I said, give yourself a little reward. If you make a plan for 5 days in a row or 14 days in a row, buy a book, do something nice for yourself. So anyway, she's well on her way to becoming a next day planner.
Ah, that's powerful right there. That's right indeed. That's one of those elite performance habits right there. Planning your day the night before, indeed. So indeed. So your brain's cooking some ideas of hey, to make that happen. Definitely to make that happen indeed. So my goodness, being a remote working extraordinaire, being able to work from home and helping folks to really get those habits from, I guess, from just plain old water to actual concrete. Like, what was probably one of the major setbacks that actually led to this insight actually manifesting for you to where it's so clear and concise now?
Yeah, a couple of things. One was, kind of the frustration that my wife was having, around trying to do this headache log, right? And seeing that, and coming up with a kind of a simple yet elegant way to do that with the habit linking initially was key. And then it's just doing it, right? Emerson said, do the thing, get the power. So the more then I started doing it, then I started sharing that with my clients and with other people. And I write a lot of articles, sharing it with mastermind groups and watching people just get it. It was like intuitive, right? Oh yeah, habit linking. Oh yeah, urge surfing. I get it. I can do this. And again, sometimes you struggle if something is too big. You may struggle. And so then what you have to do is you got to dial down the resistance. Like some people would say, Blaine, I'm going to exercise for an hour a day. I'm like, Okay, all right. I'm not gonna say you can't do that, but when I check back a week later, maybe they did it twice, right? And what happens is there's this battle of the brain chemicals that you need to win. So you need to win early and win often. We're kind of hardwired for winning, and so that's where I'd say, look, let's dial it down. Like, what about 30 minutes a day? And if you fail at that, drop to 10 minutes a day. What if you fail at that? Drop down to 1 minute. If you fail at that, then just like, what's your favorite exercise? Push-ups. Do 5 push-ups before you get in the shower. We're going to count that. We got to get the winning streak going because we need that brain chemistry to start to give you the energy to keep doing more.
Boom. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Boomer Sooner Blaine, baby. That's right indeed. Dropping that heat indeed. Dropping that heat indeed. That's right indeed. That's right. You love to see. You love to see it. Because hey, like a lot of folks can use that because of course the classic New Year's resolutions that really get forgotten sometimes the morning over 3 weeks into, and it's like, man, my man's been on a win streak with my man's habit of 1,800 plus days and counting, man. So any big celebration once you get to 2,000 days?
I haven't thought about that, but I do like streaks, and I like I said, once you get 3 or 4 days in, it really starts going, and that's my best streak is that one. But I'll have to think about that. But yeah, some way to celebrate something, maybe get myself something nice to commemorate that crossing over, the 2000. But it's been, yeah, I mean, it's just been a blessing, and now, having done that, again, now this idea of creating new habits that are going to enhance your life, right? So now, I've been in the Bible every day for that, but I've also kind of washed my mind out every day, and so that's had, kind of long-term effects in my own life as well. So I think that some of these things, are, work really well, and we are kind of creatures of habit. Now, the opposite of the 21-second habit, which is something that's totally different, is bad habit elimination. So that's the other thing that, on the flip side, can really help people, to remove the things that are hurting them, which could be, in the case of productivity, like over checking your email, eating bad food, there's the typical, over smoking and drinking and other things like that. But there's a lot of smaller habits, even like with your cell phone or smartphone, that thing can be like the utmost tool of productivity. I use it to it tracks all those things. The reason I know it's 1,807 days is because those apps track your streak for you automatically, which is nice. But it also can be the, doctor distraction, right?
Yep.
So you really, it can be a great tool or it could be super evil, right? And so you got to learn to take control of those things, and I think in the end you got to take control of your thinking and take control of your day. A lot of people are going to be pulling on you to do stuff, and you got to make sure you kind of win the day. And that's the main thing is I really try to help people win the day, because I feel if they win the day, then the week's going to work out okay. And if the weeks are, you're winning the weeks, you'll win the months, you'll win the quarters, you'll win the years. But winning the day is big in my book.
Heck yeah, I can see that again. Funny enough, that actually reminds me of one of our past guests, Chris Ward. She actually had a productivity book called Win the Hour, Win the Day. So you're so right, man, with the track of going on. It's like, hey, if you win the day, you win the week, then you win the month, then the year, and then the whole freaking decade to come. Indeed, you have all that momentum on you. You'll be like your own moving Mount Everest.
Yes, I love it. And the daily, like the day is a great compartment for, it's almost like a little mini life. Each day is like this mini life. So you got to be sure that you win. So you got to dial down the resistance, make sure you win. And then you got to also make sure that you do something for yourself. So for me, like in my little, I call it daily day design sheet, I list, here are my 2 wins for today. Like I know what my top 2 wins are for the day. And most days I get those, but it makes me focus to say, okay, if I can only win 2 things, get 2 things done on my list, what are the top 2 wins I want to have for today? But then right below that, I say for myself, today I'm going to, and I fill in the blank. So every day, treat it like a little mini life and make sure you're doing something for you and you alone. So sometimes, I'm going to do some qigong, which is like kind of this energy breath work, do some qigong by the pool. Today, the other thing I was doing for myself today was we moved to a new house, and as we got towards this house on the highway, there was this pretzel factory, and I'm like, I love pretzels. So one of the things for myself today was just call up that pretzel factory, see if there's tours, see if there's a store there, right? So just doing something for yourself. And I also think every day try to connect with somebody. I studied people in the last few weeks of their life, and they all say the same thing. The only regret they have is they say, I wish I would have had more memorable moments with the people I love. They all say that. It's the same thing. More memorable moments with the people they love. Now, the people they love, sometimes that was family, but sometimes that was coworkers or team members, friends. But that's what people wanted. There wasn't anything else. That was kind of the juice of life. So whenever you can, take that time for family or take that time for friends, or just make sure you put some type of connection. And now the smartphone is a great tool, right? I can connect with my son who's been living in Denmark for over a year now. I can connect with him, on FaceTime and through text messaging. I mean, it's an amazing world that we live in right now. The ability to connect is at an all-time high. Now, the ability to be distracted is also at an all-time high. So it's a little bit of a balance there. But I do think that the day is a great, measuring piece, for how you're doing.
Heck yeah, a great measuring piece indeed. A great measuring piece indeed. So my goodness, it sounds like you're also all about measuring your life indeed. And since you're a fellow Christian, always invite fellow Christians to share the salvation testimonies on the podcast. How'd you come to know Christ, my man?
Well, so I was born. My family was Catholic, practicing Catholic. So went to church, learned all that stuff in church, and I went to Catholic from kindergarten all the way through high school. So I got a lot of that indoctrinated into me. But I would say the moment that I remember was when I was, I was maybe 7 years old, 7, 8 years old, and I was in my backyard, and my backyard had a plateau and another hill, and I was on this middle plateau. It was grassy, and I was just lying in the grass, looking up at the sky, and I just had this overwhelming feeling that something else was there. God was there, and that feeling just has never left, has never left me. So I'm not always perfect. Luckily we've got God's mercy, but I feel like God's always there, and will always be there. So for me, it was kind of that moment as a child, and then it stayed a part of my life. So I like to read, do Bible plans. Now again, I like to do with other people. So there's a group of us that do Bible plans. We rotate who picks the plan, right? So we have a little something to do every day inside that Bible app. I'm in some Bible studies, finding a good Bible-based church. And so, yeah, but my wife and I have kind of stayed with it, which is nice.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. It's always right there, the different stories and how things came to be. Just right indeed. Because hey, a lot of folks who are good at what they do, they usually have a spiritual foundation.
Yeah, right on. I think it's a lot more powerful, to have that. And, if you feel like you're in alignment with the spirit or God, whatever you believe in, when you align with that, you just get an energy and a creativity that makes you unstoppable. I guess there's going to be hard times, but when the day I realized that I feel God put me here to help people take control of their lives by taking control of themselves, what I call self-fluence. I mean, doors just started opening, things started happening, and now I know it's not like a job. It's just like who I am. Like I'm the chief results officer, but I'm this self-fluence person that's here to be an encourager, speak life into people, and then at the same time, be here to help people kind of take control of their lives by taking control of themselves. And it's interesting that my best streak is this Bible, streak, which I like, because then wherever I'm talking about, or sometimes I show pictures of the app and show how many days it is, it gives me a little bit of an opportunity to also, share about God. So I appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure indeed. My pleasure indeed. That's right. Got to give folks that opportunity. 'Cause sometimes folks usually do the magnetic evangelism where it's like they just live and then wait for folks to ask, as opposed to just the whole going out and just spreading the good word like butter on toast.
Yes, I love that, and a lot of times I'll ask if I can pray for somebody. I have yet to have someone say no, don't pray for me, right? So that to me, that's an easy one for me. Everyone's personality is different, but I find that to be a pretty easy one.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. So, my goodness, since you've been on a boatload of interviews, spreading the good word of, hey, you got these habits that you want to develop. I got a wonderful secret that's not so secret that'll advance you to your next level. So, my goodness, is there a question that you wish podcast hosts would ask you more often?
I think the question is, what have I learned, in all this time? So 27 years working from home. I mentioned this on the earlier that I came up with this little acronym, YTABA, which is an acronym for what you think about, you bring about, which is kind of well, it's in that book Think and Grow Rich, but it's also in the Bible, and as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. I mean, it's a lot of places, but the real the big aha moment for me was when I realized that it had nothing to do with the outside world, and it didn't matter what the circumstances were, that it only mattered the lens by which I looked at the circumstances, that determined, like, physically how I reacted and physically how the world showed up for me. And I'll give you an example. So Dom, let's say I said, Dom, look, I got some bad news. Today is going to be like one of the worst days of your life. So get ready, brace for it. Now, if I tell you that, and that's the lens you're holding up for life, now you're going to be a little kind of scared, a little timid. Well, what's going to happen? And you walk out into the street and you're almost hit by a car and you go, dag nabbit, that Blaine was right. I'm almost hit by this car. This is one of the worst days of my life. And the rest of the day, you're physically scared. You're physically withdrawn, like physically, the brain chemistry, you're scared, and it's a terrible day. Now, the same day, same morning, except I swap out the lens and I say, Dom, I don't know why, but I got this feeling, I got this message from an angel above. Today's going to be one of the best days of your life. And so now you're happy and you're like, hey, where's the good stuff? It's coming. Same thing. You go out in the street, you're almost hit by the car. Now, this time instead, you're like, whoa, Blaine was right. This is the best day of my life. I'm spared. God still has a reason for me to be on this planet. I still have purpose. I have value. There's still job for me to do here, and you're excited and you're upbeat and you're, full of energy. Totally different physical brain chemistry from the other person. And then nothing was different about the circumstances. It was just that lens that you look through. So I call it the lens of the future. And whatever you decide to put in the lens of the future, that's what's going to show up. That's what's going to happen. And yes, bad things happen. I've had a lot of bad things happen in my life, but I found the silver linings. I had the right lens. And I in the end, those things served me in one way or another.
Heck yeah. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. So, my goodness, here you're a prolific author and you got another book in the works. So, what can folks expect from your next book? Because you got the guerrilla marketing book, and then you got the wonderful Think and Grow Rich workbook, indeed, that's based off the original, or the closest to the original version of Think and Grow Rich, where you're getting that raw, real deal Holyfield. So, my goodness, what can we expect from you upcoming with this upcoming book?
Yeah, so I'm doing a book about self-fluence, right? The art and science of influencing yourself. So I'm gonna, I've got a section in there about 21-second habits. I've got sections in there about something I call 30-minute hours, how to get an hour's worth of stuff done in just 30 minutes. I've got quite a number of chapters on hacking your head trash. A lot of people, myself
Mm.
included, deal with a lot of head trash, right? These thoughts that don't serve you, and sometimes they're loud, and sometimes they're soft. But dealing with the head trash, and then a lot of different kind of results type stuff, daily day designs, and how to design your week and your day, and things like that. How to move from being kind of a day behind in stuff to being a day ahead. So a lot of different frameworks like that, but similar to the 21-second habit. You got to remember, listen, it's everything you need is within reach. You're already doing it, and you can master it. And so I'm bringing those frameworks to life in a book.
Man, that hacking your head trash could be a book within itself, actually.
Probably. I think you're right.
That might you heck. I know you're still working on it, but hey, that might be the main title. Who knows? Because that's a good one,
Yeah.
man.
And a lot of my stuff that we're talking about today, I write articles about it first, right? And that's like I'll write an article about it, and then I'll see if people say, "Oh, wow, that's a great article. Tell me more." So I do have articles about 21-second habits, about 30-minute hours, about hacking your head trash, and things like that. So yeah, if people want to get connected to me, I can certainly get them those articles if they'd like.
Sweet, that's what I'm talking about. Any calendar date in mind for when folks can expect the coup de grace of the Blaine bomb? Book goodness.
My goal this year is not necessarily to publish it this year, but to get the project pretty far along. So I would say probably early next year is when I'd get into the full on publishing side of it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, definitely got to have you back on for that, man. Back on for the launch, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Because we got to launch that book to the moon. That's right, indeed. Actually, forget the moon. Let's launch to Mars. I think the
There we
Mars is
go.
further from the moon. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So, my goodness. So, for those who need to snag your other two books, let's see. We'll go with the Think and Grow Rich one. So, if that book were a food, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow. So if that was a food, what would it be and why? I think it's kind of a mind meal. It's kind of a mind meal. And so whatever food kind of nourishes the mind the most, I think it would be some kind of a mind nourishment. So it might be a big old green smoothie then.
Here we go. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Quite fitting for the Think and Grow Rich. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Especially the joke title. I'm pretty sure you're aware of what the publishers are going to call it.
Right. Yes. Get more boodle with your noodle or something like
That's
that.
right. Use your noodle to get more boodle.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yes. You know your stuff. Not a lot of people know that one. That's a good one.
Uh, it just rhymes. It was just so funny and random. It's like, it's actually kind of catchy. I mean, it's kind of corny. It
Yeah.
was kind of catchy, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you come out with that version. There you go.
That's right, indeed. Just have a big old bowl of spaghetti on the cover. That's right. Oh man. But it ain't about spaghetti, it's about my man, the champ Blaine himself. So we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. And that is if wake up tomorrow and you are 25 again, but you're still in the current year, what advice would you give to yourself?
You know, I would give that advice that I just gave you, which is about the lens of the future, right? That white table, what you think about, you bring about, and just be very intentional about how you're looking at the world, because that's how it's going to show up.
Woohoo! There you go, the white table, baby. That's right, indeed. That wonderful white table, indeed. That's right. What you think about is what you bring about. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So bring about some goodness into your life. That's right, indeed. Imagine a bunch of bread baskets full of positivity. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Or maybe a whole bunch of bread baskets full of noodles. That's right, indeed. Oh man. So my goodness, my goodness. So for those who need to keep up with your journey and learn more about what you're doing and keeping up with what you're doing too, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Yeah, the easiest thing is just go to BlaineTEDx.com. So BLAINE TEDx.com. There you can opt in to get my TED talk about white table, what you think about, you bring about. And then also you'll have my email address. We'll be connected. If I can get you any articles or serve you in any way, happy to do it.
Sweet. Well, there you have it, folks. Going to put a link to that wonderful site in the show notes. You'll get a link to Blaine's TEDx talk indeed. It's some good stuff indeed. Some good stories in there. Definitely some good old takeaways indeed, and some good old classic reminders if you're not new to self-help indeed. That's right indeed. Because the name of the game is make sure it stays self-help and not shelf-help in your brain.
Good point. Yes.
So my goodness, any parting words before we close up shop, my man?
I'm going to leave the listeners with this. The bad news. The bad news is time flies. The good news, you're the pilot. So pilot well, my friends. Pilot well.
Thanks a bunch for investing your time by listening to this wonderful podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you really did, do me a solid and leave a review or share this episode with at least 3 people that you think would get some value out of today's content. Advance others to advance yourself.